relevant for software engineering is the wide deployment of agile technologies. So the agile ecosystem is perhaps the most important trend that we see, and most of the other trends that we see are associated with this agile kind of mode of development. So let me just share my slides. Is my slide visible?
No, sir. Ah, yeah, yeah, it's visible now. It's
Is
visible
it
now.
visible?
Yeah, visible, sir, visible.
Yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned, the agile technology, the agile methodology is perhaps the most important trend that we see in software engineering today, and all the associated trends are generally corollaries of this agile technology. Now, today we are, of course, we are almost a year and a half in the throngs of this pandemic, this COVID pandemic, that has impacted every aspect of human life. But what we are seeing today is that because of the pandemic, there is no sector or no industry vertical that has not been impacted. Every single industry sector or vertical or cluster has been completely impacted by what is known as DX, or digital transformation. Digital transformation is here to stay, and we have seen every sector impacted. Now if you take our education space, this is one space or one vertical that has not been so much affected. We have been able to march on to some extent. I'm not telling that online classes are as efficient or effective as the physical contact classes, but at least we have been able to reach some level of 70 to 80% efficiency with respect to online classes, digital transformation. And this trend is only going to change. I look at my own life, in my university, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapitham, which is India's number one private university and also an institution of eminence. Every day of my life, work day, revolves around three buildings. Morning, I go to academic block 3. I take all my classes are in the morning, where the computer science and engineering department is. I take all my classes. Around lunchtime, I move on to academic block 2, go to the Cisco Thinkubator IoT Makerspace facility, sit with my hackathon teams for an hour, work on innovation. Around after a quick lunch at 2 o'clock, I come to academic block 1, where I might have another office as the chair of the quality cell of the university and work with administration activities, accreditation, ranking. So this is typically my schedule, revolving over 3 different blocks. Now, fast forward to 2021. My life is in sometimes in my apartment, sometimes in one of my offices, and the day begins with moving from Microsoft Teams, where I take classes. Now I am attending a Zoom meeting here. In the evening, I have another session for some other institution, which is on this is on Google Meet, that is on Zoom. So the life is moving from Teams to Zoom to Google Meet to GoToMeeting to Webinar Jam to Air Meet. This is how our life of a teacher has completely changed. We are taking labs online, right? We are taking project reviews and presentations online. So this is a global trend, and education has been completely impacted. Education has been completely impacted. Other sectors like healthcare have also been impacted. Manufacturing has been impacted a lot. We are talking of Industry 4.0. We are talking of robotics, 5G, big data analytics, cloud, IoT, blockchain, impacting industry, impacting logistics, impacting manufacturing, impacting all aspects of the enterprise. There is a trend, very exciting trend called SMAC, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. SMAC is a new stack that they are talking. You've heard of a stack, right? Data structure stack. Same way there is a SMAC stack. Social, mobile, analytics, cloud. Applications that capture all these trends, social, mobile, analytics, cloud, are now ruling the roost. Google Apps, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all these are examples of SMAC stack. Netflix is the largest provider of video content. That complete Netflix application, the Cinematch engine, is based on the SMAC stack. We are also seeing a lot of trend towards remote working, contactless. We need not be physically present. Conferences are becoming hybrid. IEEE, I'm on a couple of international committees of IEEE. Now we are talking of hybrid conferences. Most of the conferences will be either online, hybrid conferences. Very few contact sessions are likely to happen. We are looking at trends like, the most popular programming languages coming out are JavaScript and Python. Perhaps 60 to 70% is in programmers are using JavaScript. Maybe around 40 to 50 are using Python. We are seeing applications like microservices architecture coming. Different layers and microservices architecture. On top of one layer, you can have different services, and each microservice can have a different platform, a different operating system, a different hardware, a different interface, a different middleware. That is possible now. And for that, we have applications like Kubernetes and containers. Containers are there. We are also seeing low code, a trend called low code, keeping coding simple and minimal. We are also seeing trends like continuous integration, delivery, and development. And the last point, essentially maps directly to what we know as the agile thing. So what I'm trying to say is that the global trends that we see today, especially during the pandemic, are very much accelerating the need for agile development. There is no doubt agile has been there for quite some time, but today we are seeing that this digital transformation and the associated trends like Industry 4.0, SMAC, all are moving towards a total need for a complete agile methodology, an agile developmental paradigm. And let us see what is the agile. Now, all of us know about the waterfall model. It is also known as a traditional linear one-shot model. These are all synonyms of the same waterfall model. One-shot model, linear model, waterfall model. See, here waterfall is basically a linear model where there is a movement towards a step-by-step approach, like a factory in a manufacturing setup. The same this thing is there. And what is actually happening? Generally speaking, we can talk about waterfall model as ADCT. I will repeat. Waterfall model is about ADCT: analysis, design, coding, and testing. That is the idea of the waterfall model. And these are all going in sequence. They are going continuously. And what do you do in the analysis? You actually make a requirement specification. You go to the customer, you talk to the customer, understand the existing system, understand what is needed, understand what you need to change, understand who are the stakeholders, understand the requirements, the legacies, and so on. And then build an SRS or a software requirement specification. That requirements elicitation gathering is the first step that we can call analysis. Then what do? Then you do design. You understand what the structure is. You build a skeleton of the system. an architecture of the system, a skeleton of the system. What are the skeleton of the system? What are the hierarchy of the system? What are the modules? What are the main modules? What are the sub modules? What are the sub modules? And so on. And that is called top level design or high level design, also known as system design. All this is the same. After that, what do you do? For each module, you find out what is the data structure, what kind of data structure is needed, what are the variables that are interconnecting, where is this module talking to, whom is it talking to, what is calling, and that is known as the low level design or the program design. So design, we have high level design or top level design or system design. All these mean the same. Other side, we have program design or low level design, where we are looking into each module and what is the data structure. So that is the D or the design. Now we moved on to the coding. The coding aspect. We are now converting this design into a programming language. We can also call it development, architecting, it is the same. And the final step is what? Testing. Right? We are testing the system, and the testing will obviously include the future maintenance also. So simply speaking, the waterfall model can be simply broken down to these 4 steps: ADCT: analysis, design, coding, and testing. But these go in linear, and the problem is that you have to complete one phase before you go on to the next phase. You cannot do anything in between, and you cannot be sure that you are right the first time. So what will happen when you are doing the analysis? After you do, while you are doing the design, changes may happen to the requirements. The customer will come and say, oh no, I forgot to tell you, I should have told you 2 months back. Something I have missed out. This is needed for my system. You have to do it. You are contractually obligated to do that. So you have to go behind after starting the design, go back to the requirements and tweak the requirements, modify the requirements. But please understand, you have to go back. Considerable time is lost. Same way, when you are doing things in going back, you spend a lot of time. You take a lot of time for development. Sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board, and what happens in the end, typically what happens is that you have very little time for testing. You do a shoddy job of the testing. You skip, some people even skip it to keep the deadlines. And what happens? You have a product that is not of high quality, that is not efficient. It is very risky to have such a product, and the customer at the end becomes very, very unhappy. This is the typical story of the waterfall model. See, we have to understand that change is the essence of life. Change will always come. You cannot tell the customer, oh, I am not going to change. That's not possible. You need the business. You need the contract. You need the money. You have to be flexible with the customer. And the customer will always give you new changes, new requirements. So how do you manage? All this is possible when you are doing in an agile approach. Because the agile approach ensures that the customer is giving a go ahead at every step of the process. Agile is not a process, but it is a philosophy. It is a philosophy of working, a set of values which ensure that each and every customer is involved, and not only that, you have enough flexibility, adaptability to change as per the changing needs of the customer, as per the environment. You're flexible, you're autonomous, you're able to tweak things much easier through the agile methodology. So agile is a time-boxed, iterative approach to software delivery that builds software incrementally from the start of the project instead of trying to deliver all at once. You are working increment by increment, and each increment is time boxed. There is a time period. There is a finite time period for every box. And what is actually happening, rather than breaking the project into modules, you break the project into what is known as user stories. You're not breaking the project into modules. This is the philosophy. It's a huge philosophical change, right? It's a huge philosophical change that you are not breaking the project into modules, but you are breaking them into user stories, and these user stories are prioritized. Now I'll give you an example. Suppose you have an ATM. One user story is add user. Suppose you have a travel management system. One user story is print the itinerary or print the travel. Another user story for a travel management system is cancel the trip. Like that. If you take an ATM system, get the balance amount. That is a user story. Debiting, debit money, another user story. Credit money, user story. Apply for a checkbook, user story. So you are dividing the project into user stories, not modules. A user story may encompass more than one module. And not only that, you are developing these user stories iteratively. First iteration of the first user story, that will happen from today to next 3 days. Then you move on to user story 2. Like that, it is not, it is concurrent development, it is parallel development, it is collaborative development. Now, as I told you, this is what I've been telling you, the story of software engineering, ADCT. This is what I told, analysis, design, coding, testing. This is how waterfall works. One follows the other. If there are changes, going back will be very difficult. But in Agile, what is happening is totally different. In Agile, things are happening continuously. You make an increment or you make one user story, you are doing the analysis, you are doing the design, you are doing the coding, you are doing the testing for that user story in one go. Another user story, you are doing the analysis, you are doing the design, you are doing the coding, you are doing the testing in one go. So it's a highly iterative process. It is a parallel process. It is a continuous process. It is a collaborative process. That is the advantage of Agile. So Agile is the same, but the philosophy changes. Agile does not consider analysis, design, coding, and testing, ADCT, as discrete, but they are continuous. And because of that, you are able to improve your quality, you are improve your visibility, you are reducing the risk, because you are every single time you are involving the customer. You are able to handle changes easily because every single time you are talking to the customer. After analysis of user story 1, asking the customer, I've done this user story analysis, is it okay? Yeah, good to go. After doing the design, you're talking to the customer. And for that, there is a method called Scrum, which I will explain. So Agile development reduces the risk, reduces the change, reduces the reaction to change, because you will be able to easily handle changes. Even if the customer says, I want to add this, I want to add that, it is easily, seamlessly possible. You are able to build quality, you are able to build visibility, you are able to complete, prevent what is known as a 90% rule. It's a very interesting rule. Many a time you start a project, you start the development, it goes on very, very well, and you start the process, it goes on very, very well. But then what happens after some time? You are stuck at 90%. 90% onwards, it's not moving forward. It is not possible to drive the final nail in the coffin. You're not able to move from 90% to 100%. Somehow, something or the other is stuck. But that is also prevented when you are doing an agile thing. That 90% problem is reduced, because the agile manifesto is, you are actually, it is now, the focus is not on tools or processes or modules, but on people, the individuals and interaction. I'll tell you how. The focus is on the working software, and not the documentation, not the stories or the books that you are preparing, the manuals. It is on working software. You are taking a user story, doing the analysis, doing the design, doing the coding, doing the testing. Everything happens in one shot. And every time you are collaborating with the customer, every time you are showing it to the customer, so customer is involved from day one, and any changes that the customer says can be easily and seamlessly integrated. That is also possible. Now, within Agile, there are many methods. I'll be talking more about the method called Scrum, but there are other methods like Crystal, Kanban. Kanban is a Japanese philosophy. There is Dynamic System Development method, DSDM, which is also known as Time Boxing method. There is XP, that is known as Extreme Programming or Pair Programming. Extreme Programming is very interesting. Everything is done by two people. People work in pairs. One fellow will do the coding, the other fellow will do the testing. After some time, they will swap or switch. The other fellow will do the coding and the first person will do the testing. That's a simple way of explaining what is known as extreme programming or XP. And other methods are there. RUP is a very popular method with many roles and artifacts and so on. Artifact means an item that is product made, like an SRS or a design document or a code. It's an artifact, is an item that is produced. Not the final thing, but it is something in between. Now, we will be seeing mostly about the Scrum methodology, which I have used in a very effective manner. I will tell you how. Scrum is now very popular. Many companies are using it. All the top Fortune 500 companies are using Scrum because it's a very efficient agile methodology. And my interaction with Scrum, how it happened is, so in Amrita, as you know, the top private university, we have complete flexibility of our curriculum since 2003. And every single year we have been trying to add a lot of industry electives. In fact, I'm very proud to tell, as early as 2005, we were the first university in India to have an Infosys elective in our curriculum. And we co-developed the curriculum, co-teaching and co-developing. So we, I think from 2017 onwards, if I'm not mistaken, we introduced a project-based course known as software engineering, and it was an industry elective offered in collaboration with Tata Consultancy Services, where they gave their live TCS use cases for Scrum meetings and for Agile and so on. So we have actually implemented that over the last 4 years, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 years rather. We have had 5 batches of students who have taken a project-based course, namely software engineering, which is actually an industry elective offered by us, but in collaboration with TCS. And TCS also is co-developed the content, co-developed the course plan, co-developed the syllabus, and we are very happy because the students are happy. They have got an idea. We actually did an agile project, and I'm very happy that I was the faculty mentor in the first iteration in 2017. After that, subsequently, I have handed over to other faculty members. But what I'm saying is, we have been able to actually very effectively do this Scrum in a live this thing, and we got use cases. Now, Scrum is a very simple thing. It is actually meetings. Scrum is a framework where people can address complex adaptive problems and have daily meetings to collaborate, to decide, to negotiate, and easily deliver products. And we can actually have the entire Scrum meetings, the Scrum system, the Agile system, in using a software like Jira, 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 which is not open source. It's I think some open source version is there, but the entire project management paradigm, the tracking, the things can be used, done, and Scrum meetings, the minutes, everything can be done in Jira. So Scrum is basically a lightweight agile process management tool. Now, what you do is, rather than having a project manager, software configuration manager, software leader, tester, coder, analyst, what do you say? That philosophy of having a project team with specific roles slightly changes in Scrum. So we know a typical team. There will be a project manager. There could be a project manager will be a super boss. There may be 5 projects under him. Each project may have a project leader, a PL. Under the project leader, there may be senior software engineer. There may be testers. There may be analysts. There may be quality checkers. There may be coders and so on. There may be somebody as a configuration manager. There may be a library or a keeper or a records keeper. Like that, multiple roles are usually there, and generally these roles are stationary or do not change through the life cycle of the project as a general trend. But Scrum is not like that. Scrum means that the roles are all changing. Your team or your organization or your team is broken down to small cross-functional self-organizing teams. Self-organizing team means the roles are always changing, right? The roles are always changing. It's not that the first week you could be a coder, the next week you could be a tester, the third week you could even be the scrum master, the fourth week you could be the a quality checker, a fifth week you may be taking care of the library. I'm just giving you a simplistic example, but generally speaking, you divide the organization, your teams, into cross-functional, self-organizing teams. The organizing means it goes on, and split your work into a list of small, concrete deliverables. I already told you there is a user story. We are not dividing the project into modules. We are dividing them into user stories. One user story may have several deliverables. Deliverable is something like a small product or something that comes in between. So instead of a large group spending a long time building a big thing, we have a small team spending a short time building a small thing. But every time you build something, a small team makes a small thing in a small time, you integrate. You integrate and find out what the final product is. And every day you have what is known as a Scrum meeting. And not only that, you generally divide, 100-meter dash. It is a sprint. So your time boxing is somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. You can decide, the company can decide, okay, my sprint or my time box is 2 weeks. Or you can, it's a very major project. Let us have a sprint of 4 weeks. So what is happening is, you have a project, you break them down to user stories, fine. You have Scrum meetings every single day. And how is the time boxing? This Scrum meeting will be for one sprint. One sprint is 2 to 4 weeks. And there will be deliverables for every sprint. If it is user story 1, one deliverable is there. User story 2, no deliverable because it's yet to get ready. Like that, you divide the work. So a large group is not making taking a lot of time. It's smaller groups making smaller things in a small amount of time, and they are continuously integrated. But please understand the time box. After one sprint, 2 to 4 weeks, we go into the next thing. So we are making deliverables. We are making items that will be meant for 1 month, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, one sprint, so as to speak. And for everything, the sprint, the project is a very big thing, project or a product. You may have 3 sprints or 5 sprints for the project, but you divide them. Suppose you are deciding this project will take 5 months, right? You want to make a product, it will take 5 months. You divide it into 5 sprints. 5 sprints will be there. Every sprint will be for 1 month. And every sprint for that 1 month, every working day, you will have a Scrum meeting. This is the plan. And we have what is known as a product backlog and a sprint backlog. Now, product backlog is what will come after 5 weeks. Assuming that your project is taking or product is taking 5 weeks, what will come after 5 weeks is the product backlog. But you divided that product, that 5 months into 5 sprints. Sprint backlog will be happening after 1 month. What are the deliverables after the first sprint? What are the deliverables after the second sprint? That you break it down. So I think you have understood what I'm trying to say. A big process is being decomposed into sprint, right? A big product or a project is broken down to sprints. Each sprint will have its own deliverables, its own outcomes, and at the end of 5 sprints you get the product outcome or the product backlog, sprint backlog and product backlog. Now every day you have a sprint, you have continuous sprint reviews also. Daily there is a scrum meeting. Every single day there will be scrum meetings. In between the scrum meeting may also become a sprint review meeting where you are talking to the customer and so on. At the end of this, towards the end, you have a sprint retrospective. Towards the end of the sprint, not so you are actually looking back and seeing, okay, maybe your sprint is 4 weeks. On the 4th week beginning, you will have a retrospective. Okay, in the last 3 weeks, we have done this. We are ahead of schedule. We are going to do. Let us release it on after the sprint. Alternately, you can also do the ulta. You can decide, okay, after 3 weeks, oh, this sprint, we have done, 1 more week is there for the sprint to complete, but we are not ready. We may have to postpone the release by a week. So this is the flow that happens, right? Suppose there is a sprint is 4 weeks. Every day you are meeting, every working day, not Sunday. Every working day you are meeting. And one of these daily meetings, you can do a sprint review. You can see where you are standing. Towards the end, the sprint review becomes a sprint retrospective where you decide whether to release or not release. And everything is time boxed as such. And these are known as ceremonies or meetings. Every day, as I told, this daily scrum ceremony or meeting is there. Maybe once in a week or once in 2 weeks, you can have a sprint review. Towards the end, you have a sprint retrospective. Now, as I mentioned, everybody is given a role. But please understand, this role is not final or not fixed forever. In one sprint, you make one fellow the Scrum Master. Scrum Master is like a mini project manager. But rather, actually, the project manager ideally can be what is known as a product owner. The reason I will tell you, it is ideal that you have the project manager as the product owner. The reason is, it is normally the project manager who will be talking to the customer, calling the meetings with the customer, getting inputs from the customer. He is the face of your project. So ideally, you make the project manager as a product owner. And one of you can go on taking the roles of the Scrum Master. You see, you can even change it. Today you are the Scrum Master, next week another person can be the Scrum Master, and then you have rules. So as I mentioned, product owner is responsible for the project. He's like the project manager. He is a member of the Scrum team. He bridges the gap between the customer, the stakeholders, and the Scrum team. He is the leader. So it's better that the project manager does this job. And the product owner, these are all, if you see the roles and responsibilities, I will give you a minute to read this. It is nothing but the rules, roles and responsibilities of a project manager. So better that the project manager takes full responsibility as the product owner. He keeps the backlog, he keeps the minutes, he talks to the customer, he works with the Scrum team and so on. I've already told you. Product backlog is the to-do list and so on. I've told you all these things. Now Scrum Master. Scrum Master is like a mini project manager. It need not be a permanent thing. It can be changing also. It can be this week. You can even assign Scrum roles in a round robin fashion. You can decide for this complete sprint, you are the Scrum Master. Or you can even decide this week for these deliverables, this person is the Scrum Master, and the next deliverable, the Scrum Master will change. So Scrum Master is like a coach. Some noise. yeah, member of the Scrum team, works daily with the Scrum team, and acts like a mini project manager. But please understand, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
yeah. Please understand, the Scrum Master is now only an enabler. He's like a mini project manager. He cannot shout, or he's not accountable. He's only a coordinator. The accountable person is always the product owner or the project manager. I told you product owner is ideal as the project manager. Now the team, you know, these are the traditional thing. One fellow does the coding, one fellow does the testing, one fellow does the quality check, one fellow does the requirements, one fellow does the documentation. This is a typical team. But in a Scrum team, the team is self-organized. One week you are the Scrum Master, the next week you are the coder, the week after that you are the tester. One sprint you are the Scrum Master, the next sprint you are a tester. So the roles are always
ఇది
changing.
బటర్ స్కాచ్ ఉన్నాయి సేమ్ ఫెనీలా ఉన్నాయి.
Please mute people. Okay. So if, this is the kind of cross-functional team that we Scrum entails. Each person is the roles are changing, and as I told you, the sprint, the heart of the Scrum is the sprint. It is an iteration of time or a time box where the team completes a specific group of tasks from start to finish. As I mentioned, it is between 2 to 4 weeks. And each sprint is like a mini project, something like that. And the project is divided into sprints. So each sprint is like a mini project. And in a sprint, we have daily Scrum meetings. We do sprint planning. We do a daily Scrum. We sprint review. So one day, after 5 days of Scrum meetings, you may decide 6th day is a sprint review. 26th day is a sprint retrospective where we are reviewing the work. I already told you all these things. I've already explained. Yeah, one more important thing is when there is a daily Scrum meeting, the general logic is that the Scrum Master is basically like a mini project manager. He is an enabler. He runs the meeting like a mini project manager. He takes stock of the situation. He understands the role. He enables the thing. But please understand, he is not accountable. He is only a coordinator. And what he does is, he will ask 3 questions primarily. What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? Is there any issues that you are facing? And so on. So that's a general daily meeting kind of logic. And generally the Scrum meeting should not be more than 15 minutes or more. It should not be very long. Anyone can attend, but only the team and the Scrum Master may attend. You can even invite the product owner, the customer also to the meeting, but during the Scrum meeting, he will not talk. The customer will not talk. After the meeting, you can ask him or her to give comments. You can focus on the current work, the priorities and the issues that you are facing. And please understand, the Scrum meetings are for coordination and not for problem solving. And when do you end the sprint with a review? As in a sprint review, you show whatever you have done to the product owner. Ideally you can call the customer also. If the customer is there, you can call the customer. Sometimes some companies do make the product owner as the customer. I think most companies prefer the project manager to be the product owner, and the project manager will talk to the customer, or invite the customer. In certain cases, you can even call the customer as the product owner. That is also possible. So the entire team participates, shows the product like a demo, a maximum of 1 hour per week per sprint duration, informally, no slides, invites suggestions. And here the product owner, who could be the project manager and or the customer side, will give their inputs. This is how the sprint is. And in the end, we have a sprint retrospective. At the completion of a sprint, what did we do well? what did not we do well, and what actions do we need to do in the future. This is how the sprint works. And there are some associated things, some rules that you follow. You can, in the sprint retrospective, you can make notes like this. You can have tools that are, lot of tools are there to help the agile process. I will show you some snapshot of Jira. Jira is a wonderful project management tool, end-to-end project management tool, where you are assigning scrum roles, user stories, finding out the backlog, tracking, understanding the process, understanding the flow, understanding the schedule, finding out the bugs, finding out where issues are, and so on. I think it's the best tool available is Jira. There are some other tools also, but I believe there is another tool that people use called Jenkins, continuous build tools. Then there are Go pipelines that are meant for continuous delivery. Even Jenkins is one of them. Code, you take the code and you build the code, you automate the code. There is another tool called Jasmine for unit testing. You can do this. You can use Jira for project management. For testing, you can use Jasmine. You can use Sonar Cube separately for checking the quality of the code. You can use Selenium for also testing. So for enabling the agile methodology, for enabling the Scrum, we can use multiple tools. Jira probably is a comprehensive tool. Other tools are slightly focused. Jasmine is meant for unit testing. Sonar Cube is meant for what is that? Quality analysis of the code. Selenium is meant for automation testing. Go pipeline and Jenkins are meant for code building and code analytics. And one important thing about this thing is continuous integration. You continuously integrate as you build. I told you Jira is one of the best tools that is available. Interesting, the name Jira comes from Godzilla. In Japanese, Godzilla is Gojira. Gojira. If you've seen that movie, you'll know. And Jira comes from Gojira, which is a project management tool for all kind of tracking bugs. Full project management end-to-end is possible. You can have user stories. These are user stories. The project is called an epic, or maybe a sprint. You can call it an epic. Within the epic, you will have a story, user story. Within the story, you can have tasks, you can have subtasks, you can have deliverables, you can have bugs reported for tasks. So it is very easy to use, very simple to use. We have actually implemented this for the software engineering course, and students submitted their assignments completely in Jira. Of course, I think we need to pay and buy a license, if I am not mistaken. I don't recall exactly, but yes. So you can also have status for projects and so on. This is how the components looks like. Who is the person, who is assigned, who is the Scrum Master, like that. So many things are possible in Jira. Another tool is, this is open source, Sonar Cube. Sonar Cube is an open source platform for continuous inspection of the code. It supports 20 programming languages and several plugins. And it looks for bugs within the code smells. Bug is a error. Code smell is a finite part of code, or a package of code. It looks for the bugs in this thing. You can actually integrate Sonar Cube into Jira also, if I recall, it is possible, and so on. And you can give metrics. That means if past means it is okay, warning means there are some issues, failed means this many conditions. So if there are more than 70 issues, that means it is a concern. If there are more than 100 issues, it is a problem. Like that, you can give this thing with respect to the code. That's all from my side. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable presentation of SAP. Students will have any doubts, can raise your doubts. Participants, do you have any clarifications? Please raise your queries.
Sir, we one there is a
So tell me, sir.
I
Tell
saw
me,
the
sir.
message in the chat. 1 minute.
Ah,
Can somebody 1 minute? I'll read it. Yeah. So there is a question from Malavika. We can come across some clients who do not have any idea. Yes, that is very true. How to tackle these clients? It's a major challenge. But we have to understand one very important aspect, that the customer is the king, or you can say queen. The customer is the king, or the customer is the queen. We need the customer. They don't need us. We need them. We need them to get the business. And not only that, once they give business, they give you a project to make, it's highly likely that they'll come back to you for more business, right? So we have to go with that attitude, right? uh, you'll be surprised to know that if you take the major software and service companies in India, if you take Infosys, Wipro, all these major companies, 80% of their revenue comes from repeat business. Means the same client again and again comes to them. So you have to not only satisfy the client or the customer, you have to delight the customer. The customer is the queen or the customer is the king. So you have to be very diplomatic. You have to be very clear, honest with the customer. The customer doesn't know anything. So you have to be more of a communication thing. You have to tell the customer, this is what we can do. They have no idea. Somebody would have told them, oh, make a, okay, to give you an example, State Bank of India has got a automated banking software, but some local cooperative bank in Coimbatore, somebody has told they are having a superb software. Why don't you do like that? Also, customers will be there, but you need the money, right? So what you have to do is you should be able to talk to the customer, communicate effectively, clearly explain the things to the customer. This is what it is. This is what it is not. That is what is needed. So you have to be able to convince the customer and speak the language of the customer. That is very, very important. You have to speak the language of the customer. If the customer is a cement factory person, I mean, a cement factory person is giving you a software to build for the cement, you should talk in their language. That is your job. That is why communication skill is very important for a software engineer, especially when he is doing the requirement analysis. Communication skill, you have to properly communicate, understand their system before you talk. Yeah. Any more questions?
sir, a question, sir.
Yeah.
So whether the software engineering is only learned through experience, sir?
Well, to some extent, yes. If the answer is yes and no, because a lot of things you only gain through experience. But at the same time, you can slightly accelerate or short circuit that by using of tools. See, now there are automated tools for anything and everything, right? There are tools for anything and everything. So sometimes, we are talking of reinventing the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are tools available. Use the tool. It will be easy to do things. So a lot of that experience can be reduced by using automated tools. Like I told you, you may think, oh, Jira, that is one complication. But if you have 5 different tools, Jira, Selenium, Jenkins, SonarQube, you have 4 tools, but you please understand that 4 tools have been built with so much of experience. and a lot of your problems that you face will be solved when you use that. So that is one way to short circuit experience by using better tools. There's another question from Daniel Silvanus. If the customer is in the Scrum meeting and he creates a problem, how can it be addressed? No, the customer cannot create problems in a Scrum meeting. Scrum meeting, the customer, if he or she is there, should not talk. After the Scrum meeting, they can give their input. I heard your Scrum meeting. There are some issues, and so on. That kind of thing is uh, uh, what is that? That kind of thing we can say. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your clear explanation. Takeaway points of the program. We understand the clear idea about emerging trends in software engineering. We clearly grasp the idea about the philosophy of agile software, like dividing the projects into user stories. And also we got the concepts of Scrum Master, the team of the Scrum, elements of spirit, the daily Scrum meeting, Scrum roles, and so on. Thank you, sir. Now, the session for the vote of thanks. Good afternoon and all. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our chief guest, Professor A.K. Naik, advisor, IIBM Group and former president and fellow CSI, who honored this event with his inspirational thoughts. And also, I would like to express my wholehearted thanks to our chief guest, Professor Prashant R. Nair, chairman of IQAC, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. A.V. Sendil Kumar, Director, PG and Research Department of Computer Applications, for his efforts in coordinating with the event to get this mission done. I would like to express my special thanks to our department staff members, students, and participants of various colleges of this event. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll just give you my details for my YouTube channel. If you search for me, my name is given here. You search for this on Facebook and YouTube, you will find my channel. Channel is very new. I just started a month or two back. But my Facebook page has been there for almost 10 years. So you can follow me also. Just search for Prashant R. Nair, Prashant space R space NAIR Nair. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sendil sir. Thank you,
Sir,
ma'am.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.